The Tony Gebhardt Show. Music, motivation, and positively obnoxious. Welcome to the Tony Gebhardt Show, episode number 3. It is a beautiful Saturday. This is a bit of a longer episode too, so I'm going to keep the talking to a minimum. And if you're watching live, it's going to be a little uncut. We'll try that. Of course, once it goes to Apple and Spotify, it'll have all the fancy ads in it and all that good stuff. Bit of a different background today. The studio is being used for a guest room. We have our good friend coming up from California, staying with us for the week, and we've had a blast. We're having a good time. We're going tubing on Sunday. Winter tubing. Inner tube type of stuff like that. So it's going to be nice. It's going to be nice. Put on some of that winter gear and do the Eskimo thing. I hope everybody's doing well. Happy Saturday again. Hope your New Year's resolutions are still standing strong. Officially declared this house a no sugar no sugar sodas. Yeah. Definitely want to cut that out of my diet, because I feel like my Hubba Bubba is getting bigger on my stomach every day. And I went to the doctor's on Monday, and I'm 240 pounds. What the hell happened? Like, I have an additional zip code in my fucking stomach. And I don't even know how I feel about that. Welcome to the Tony Gebhardt Show. Music, motivation, and positively obnoxious. If you're new, definitely give the show a follow and leave a review. They help. Really, they do. Ratings and reviews, they really help. If you don't like it, that's okay. I'm not going to be mad if you don't. But really got a great show today. Really good friend Shane Lowe is in the studio, and had a great interview with him last Sunday. Did that pre-recorded. I'm really happy. But at the same time, cabin fever's in full swing, so it's just like you gotta fight that. Especially living in Alaska, you really have to fight that, get out of that funk. Shane Lowe's an amazing person. Definitely loved working with him. Today is about Shane Lowe. Really good friend, man of many trades. Really enjoy talking to him. When him and I talk, like, you ever, you have a friend or somebody in your life that you sit there and you can just freaking talk to for 3-4 hours at a time, and it almost feels like no time has passed. I mean, he's kind of one of those guys to me. We'll just sit there and babble about music, nonsense, or really anything that our mind really just generates. It could be, it could be ridiculous. It could be nothing. But nevertheless, it was great. So I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to switch over to his interview. Before we get to the podcast with Shane, I do got to tell you about a cool game that I have been playing the last couple of days. It's called Scramble, made by Stephen D. StephenD.net. This game is addictive. You're going to find it just as equally addicting. You got to run around a field, collect as many points as you can, get the power-ups on top of the platforms. Yet again, don't get your ass hit by those flying rocks. What about a cannon that comes at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour? Don't even worry about it. This game is fun. You're going to get really good at it. I know I have. And the cool thing is you'll be able to beat your high score each time. That is if you can do it before the lava pit consumes you. Go get the game, StephenD.net.
You're going to get a taste of what I feel when people say this to me. I thought you were in like your late 30s.
Oh
when
my
we met.
God.
You were like, you have like the voice, you've got the personality, you've got the maturity. I was like, oh man, this guy, I don't know why this guy is talking to me. my tone, half as good as you. My tone has to be so expressive, because usually I'm on the radio and no one can see my face to know that I'm joking. The people take me too seriously. So it's a dangerous world out there, man.
It is. Well, you know what they say about, I think, like, content creators and radio personalities and things of that nature is, like, don't take yourself seriously, but take what it is that you do seriously, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
You have to be serious about what you do. You have to have that commitment. If you commit to something, you have to follow through. That's always been a key to anything that I've succeeded in my life, is being able to know when to make the commitment so that you can follow through and deliver.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about music, man. I know you are a percussionist and you do recording as well. When did all that start? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I started out playing just about as far from percussion as you can get. When I was 4 or 5, I started out on the violin. My grandparents took me to a preschool that had a violin teacher, and so it was free. So it's like, well, why should we pay for any other lessons? Let's just start him out on violin and see what happens. So I learned like rudimentary rhythm in violin class, actually, because you would have to clap different rhythms so that your timing didn't suck when you were actually playing the violin.
Right.
And so like my whole family got super invested. Like they bought me a Charlie Daniels fiddle for, I think it was for my birthday one year.
Wow.
And like everyone was super like, yeah, Shane's gonna be a violinist. And then I was like, guys, like I'm not a violin fan. I'm a fan, but like it's not the instrument for me. And so they're like, oh, well that makes sense. Other blind musicians like Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, like they're pianists, so you need to play piano. That makes a lot of sense. So my dad paid for me to get piano lessons when I was like 6, and so I went into piano, and he went to every lesson with me, and me, the teacher, and my dad would sit in the booth, and the guy worked really hard to teach me piano, and I did not care.
Wow.
My dad got me a practice keyboard. Like I had fun, like just like playing around on the practice keyboard, but like learning the rudiments of piano, it just didn't capture me. And so I was like, well, my dad got me into rock and roll and classic rock, so I want to play guitar. That's what I want to do. So when I started going to Kentucky School for the Blind in 1st grade, they had a great music program, and so I took guitar for 3 years there. And after 3 years, I still couldn't play the riff to Dream On, and so I was like, this is stupid. I'm not playing guitar anymore. This is a waste. And like all this time, I'd been super rhythmic oriented, so I was really into the groove. And my guitar teacher, because the drum program was full, so I couldn't play drums, but my guitar teacher was also a drummer, and so if I wasn't an asshole in guitar lessons, we would spend the last half of the lesson on drums.
Oh, there you go. Find a way to
I got lucky.
A little loophole. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There you go.
And so the next year, when I was 9, I transitioned into playing the kit, and I was on drums. I've been a drummer and percussionist ever since, man.
Now maybe we can play a little bit of music on the podcast as well. I can put in a track or two or something
Absolutely.
like that while we're talking.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to spotlight that. But that's excellent. That's absolutely excellent. And how old are you now?
I'm 23 now. I just turned 23.
It's so crazy because I remember when we first met a couple years back and started growing our friendship. I thought you were older than me. I literally did, just based on how you pose, you poise yourself, and your aptitude and your attitude and maturity. Like it shows that you've experienced a lot in life, and when we go through adversities or struggles, or when we're forced to grow up quicker than we really wanted to, or depending on just our upbringing, it really shows in how we present ourselves. And I think that's one of the more admirable things about you that really took me back for a second, and that's one of the things I got to show a lot of respect for.
I appreciate you, man.
Bravo.
I thought you were older than you too.
Really?
Yeah, I thought you were like you're gonna get a taste of what I feel when people say this to me. I thought you were in like your late 30s.
Oh
when we
my
met.
God.
You were like, you have like the voice, you've got the personality, you've got the maturity. I was like, oh man, this guy, I don't know why this guy is talking to me.
Get out. I joined the 27 club this year. Can you believe that?
Wow. That's crazy.
I know.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Man, I thought you were going to join the 37 club.
No, not the
I bet that
37
feels
club. I fuck you, but thank you.
Oh, we can say that on this show?
Well,
yeah. Right.
not a ton, but we can. Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
We can.
The show's full of surprises.
It is. That's right.
I'm loving it. Yeah, man.
And it's so cool to have you be a part of it too, because this is early stages of the show, so I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with it and how I want to represent people and have them represent themselves, really. And depending on the guest, it's either clean or it's either explicit. Really, is kind of how I'm going to approach it. So
fair enough.
No talks of drugs, of course, or anything like that. But it's common.
I'm straight edge as it gets, so you don't have to worry about that.
So am I.
Right
I
on,
have
man.
a drink or two every now and again, but that's really about it these days.
Yeah, I'll have a drink or two of like apple juice.
Ooh,
that's like the extent. I'm living on the edge, man.
Living on the edge. Going back to Aerosmith.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
so,
man.
In addition to music, man, I mean, you're a man of many trades. You do consulting as well as you're a radio show host of a fairly popular internet radio group here in the blind community, which is awesome. And I'm proud to also be a part of that, kind of just as support and be present with everyone. Tell us about Venom.
Longtime guest. Thank you. Yeah. So my internet broadcasting / podcasting background is, it was born out of a passion project because as I was developing as a musician, recording was really important to me. I wanted to, even when I was really young, I wanted to chronicle what my progress looked like. If I did something really cool, I wanted to be able to show it to people rather than I grew up with, kids just brag about stuff and no one would ever have proof. That everyone has that one friend who's like, man, I did the coolest shit this weekend, man, but my phone died and I didn't get a video. And it's like, you didn't do nothing.
Didn't do shit.
So I was like, I've got to record this stuff. I've got to have proof because I want to do something with my life, man. I want to be able to make all of the dreams that I have real, and to be able to do that, I have to have something to back up what I say, and so that really motivated me to take an interest in recording, and at the same time, just for fun, I was getting into audio gaming. So this is, there were a lot of people. We could talk for hours about all the people who shaped my life and who made a huge difference.
And it's good to have mentors. That's one of the things on the show I was going to bring up is, talk about your mentors.
Absolutely. Well, one of my mentors a long time is Dr. David Hume. He was also at the KSB and he built my technical foundation. I'm a musician, but I'm also a nerd. And so he was the one after he, built my foundation on how to use computers and assistive tech. He was like, you should join some email lists because I'm really sick of you coming up to my room in the middle of your other classes to ask me about tech shit. So you should join email lists and ask those people your tech questions. I was like,
right.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Right.
He was way nicer than that.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
I'm sure.
I joined this email list and I met this guy who's still a good friend of mine and a web designer that I work with frequently today, Mr. Ashley Cox. And he had a website where he was talking about audio games. And so I jumped into audio gaming, and I found the audio games because he was podcasting them. He was playing games, and he was one of the first he was probably the first podcaster I ever heard. And I was like, this is awesome. So I started making really awful podcasts, which... and gaming and podcasting connected me to some very good friends. I started out in internet radio in 2013 thanks to my friends Justin, Malik, and Josh. And we worked together for several years. And then I worked for another station out of New York for a couple of years. And it was all this time I was thinking about all these things that I wanted to do.
Right.
With those networks that I couldn't do because I wasn't in charge. And no
you
one
wanted to be your own boss.
I did, yeah. And so when I left that group out of New York in 2019, a lot of friends came with me, and at that point I feel like I've got these connections. I know a lot of great people who are driven, who are good at what they do, who are smart and interesting and funny, and I think we can make something happen. And so over the course of the next 8 months, we conceptualized and developed this platform called Venom, and it fills it has a couple different hats. It has a couple different purposes. You know what I mean? So there's it meets the needs of a lot of different people. So on the one side, we're talking about internet radio. It's people who have a passion for broadcasting as a hobby, and they love it, but they have other, primary work. And so this is an outlet. It's a platform for them to do what they're passionate about. It's also because we're fortunate enough to have built up an audience over the last 3 years. It's also a space where we can promote artists and performers like Tony Gebhardt. But also I've had the pleasure to work with a lot of great artists over the last few years, and we've been able to promo and work with people like the band Bad Wolves. We've worked with Sonic Discretion. We've worked with Andy Timmons. Lots of different people who we've been able to bring on in a more professional capacity to interview and promote their latest work. And so it's kind of that, it's a blend, where we can all fuck around and have a good time.
Sure.
But when it's time to buckle down and get serious, we leverage that audience, to benefit others in the community. And so
Sure.
when we talk about Venom, it's really become like a family and a community. There's a lot of people who come together through that. And it's more than what I ever thought it could be. When we started, we had all these mainstream ambitions, and what I've been thinking about a lot lately is, mainstream ambitions are valuable, but so many of us on Venom have mainstream ambitions that we're pursuing through other projects. And so protecting that integrity and keeping Venom what it is, keeping it as fun and as carefree as it is, but also having that aspect of, connecting and promoting real legitimate performers, that is like the perfect balance. And it's just been so cool to facilitate.
God, I love
platform like that.
I love that so
Thank you,
much.
man.
It gives me shivers every single time because, I hear your voice, and this happens every time we talk, whether it be on or off recording. Just this sense of connection, this, synchronicity between people when you bring them together in such a way that, they're able to feel safe. They're able to also express themselves at their own capacity with other people who embrace them as they are. That's a community. You've created a community, and, regardless of how big, medium, or small it is, size doesn't matter. It's
You sure know how to make a girl feel special.
Oh, I try. It's quality. You know what I mean? It's quality over quantity in a lot of ways with something like that. And
But
that's you.
It's so funny that you say that, though, because we went into it with the same mindset. You know what I mean? We didn't expect there to be. We were pushing for a ton of interest, but we didn't expect it out of the gate. And I'm telling you, my mind is blown. I mean, we've got 25 shows a week. We're working with 17 or 18 people.
Yeah.
And it's all not for profit. It's all volunteer. These people do it because they love it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that is such an honor to me that what we built, the six of us locked up in a public Team Talk server because we didn't have our own, just brainstorming the shit that we would like to see in a community that it's hard to find anymore, could actually not only develop that level of commitment from the people that we've got on the network, but also people who, there's a running joke that I still talk about a lot, which is like, I don't know why anyone listens to this shit. This is terrible. And it surprises me every time I look and I see 40 people tuned in. I see 90 people tuned in. It's like the numbers are, and sometimes it's a lot lower than that. Sometimes we got 7 people tuned in.
Sure.
But you know what
Absolutely.
I mean? Like to do something, as long as it affects one person in a positive way, and isn't contributing negatively, I mean, that's huge to me. That's what I want to do.
Well, there you go. When
Whether
you
it's
look at
music
yourself from
anything.
years ago, when you were working, at the School for the Blind down in Kentucky, or when you were in the radio station in New York, did you have an expectation that things would be the way that they are now?
I hoped so. I hope so, but there was always something in the way. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There was something in the way. I didn't mention this, but I started out on that radio station. We had a radio station at the School for the Blind, and it was old school. It had a FM transmitter. It had a big soundboard from the late 80s that was like falling apart. And to sense if you had explicit music, you had to censor it manually by muting the track.
Woo.
During the curse word. So I had to learn, because I was playing gangster rap, and so like that was my show that I was passionate about, and so I would like learn all the songs by heart and then mute everything manually to censor it.
See,
and
that's
I did a
hands-on.
terrible job.
That's a hands-on right there.
Yeah, that's why I went to internet radio, because it's like it's Sirius XM or internet radio, and Sirius XM isn't looking for any 13-year-olds.
Right.
So I went to internet. And there was always something in the way. I couldn't really be myself on the school station, because it's a school station. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I couldn't, the quality was tough in 2013. And then it was, when I was in New York, it was the integrity a little bit. I was struggling with that. And so for a while, it was like, I really need to sit down and create what I want to see. And something
you did.
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Something a bandmate and a brother of mine, Question ATL, always says, like, if you build it, they will come. And I'm sure that's somebody else's quote, but I always hear it from him, so I'm going to say it's his quote.
Well, there you go. Absolutely.
And it's so true. And I've had the great honor of actually experiencing that in my life.
And you know what? There's a concept that I usually talk about a lot, and I heard it from Bob Proctor, motivational speaker that I really, really like. I got his book, You Were Born Rich, right? And the book talks about...
That's a great title.
It is. It's a wonderful title. And his book tailors it towards financial success. But, I kind of went into the book with a different perspective, looking at it from mindfulness and a sense of accomplishment. So here's the concept. It's the law of attraction, right? When you look at the universal laws, you have the law of attraction, you have the law of matter, and the law of, what's the other one?
Pizza.
What, pizza? Is that what you said?
Yeah, the law of pizza.
Yeah, I agree.
It's an immutable force in society.
It is the way of mozzarella,
Yeah. It's a scientific fact.
It is. So the law of attraction basically says that depending on your output will be your input. So if you go throughout life expecting the worst of all that you encounter, situations, people, places, things, then what's going to naturally happen is that's going to be your results. Now, you can't, of course, argue with circumstance, because, imperfection is bound to be apparent no matter what. But, those who pursue an actively positive mindset and try to expect the best no matter what generally will be happier, because they are tailored to think about life with a glass half full, right? What do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's so true. If you come into something and your goal is to get something out of it, you might get something out of it. It's true. But what are you giving back?
Right.
And this is something I struggled with for a long time, because I have goals and I have ambition. It's like, I want to get these things. I want to acquire these things and build these things. But like, what am I contributing? What am I giving back to the people who shaped my life, who built the person that I am? And what am I giving to the people who come to the thing that I build? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so like, I was at a conference for work about a month ago, and I heard something that was really interesting that I think about a lot now when I think about like networking and moving in a space with a goal. And it's like you can look at every person as an emotional bank account. And the question is like, are you going to add to that person's bank account? Are you going to make a deposit there, or are you going to withdraw something from that person?
Ooh.
And I thought that was really powerful, right? Because there have been times in the past where I've wanted to make a connection and I've led with the withdrawal. And it's like, I might get it, but who knows if I'm actually leaving an impression on that person. I might get what I want. But if I want something in the future, if I want to keep that relationship up, who knows if they'll have an interest in that, because they're like, well, I've filled that guy's request. Now he'll probably just leave me alone. That's good. So it's a lot about, when I think about this, I think about like a lot of the success that I've had, either in the job that I have full time, or the guests that we've been able to bring onto Venom, or the connections that I make in music with the bands that I'm leading now. It's like these relationships, every piece of success in my life has been built off of connections and relationships.
Right.
There's nothing that hasn't come from who I know, and so being a person who contributes, who gives back, who deposits in the emotional bank accounts of the people that I work with is so important to me, because I would like the same.
Absolutely.
I hate it when people will message me and like, hey man, like, can you do this? Can you connect me with this person? I'm like, why? Like, not that I think that you're dumb or worthless or anything, but like, why? Like, what, how can I sell you to them? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I don't know you other than your request. So how am I supposed to vouch for you and say, yeah, this guy is worth your time. This person's got an idea that you should hear.
What I really appreciate about this conversation in particular is it makes me think about who I used to be years ago, and I'll be the first to put myself in the light to be chastised for this. I used to be a leach. Definitely used to be.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody
starts as a leach.
Everybody starts as a leach.
You have to. You have.
That's true. That's very true. And I remember
we're all
in
built off of good people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you feel kind of gross when you think about it. And I think that's why
it's humbling.
It is, because it makes us realize what kind of people we truly want to be, especially as in your case, you're newly married. Congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
We're
5 months in.
I know. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And she doesn't hate you yet.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know how that happened.
I know. Well, and like
blessed.
I'm getting married soon as well. And the thing that I want to
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thing that I always
Absolutely.
echo in my mind is, what kind of husband do I want to be? What kind of father do I want to be to my future children? And what kind of legacy and impression do I want them to see, going forward with my brand, with my business? And, I think about our friendship in specific too, because, we recently had a conversation where you were feeling, a certain way with me in Venom. And that really got me thinking. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm unintentionally doing that. Thank you for calling that out. And, that encouraged me, like, hey, you need to reach out to Shane more often and connect with him, because you guys are great friends. You guys connect. You have a lot of same interests. And I was like, well, what the heck am I doing? Because, sometimes I think it's that accountability that's really important too, right? Acknowledging and recognizing the vulnerability of people. And then, where the benefit of the doubt is, it's like, hey, we're not angels. We're flawed creations of this world that are just trying to put ourselves back together and, leave a positive impression on other people. And, I thank you for that as a friend.
Thank you, man. Because it's all about grace. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's about, recognize if you've got an issue, you've got to recognize what could be motivating that and see it from both sides, and then communicate that in a way that's, I feel like today a lot of people have problems, and their goal is not necessarily to solve the problem. The goal is to say that they have a problem.
Right.
And that bothers me a little bit, because if you don't immediately approach a problem, after you've taken the time to process it, if you don't immediately approach the problem from the perspective of how do we get back on track, how do we solve this,
100%.
and it's more about just like, just raging or condemning or whatever people do these days. It's like,
sure.
what do we want to get out of that?
Sure.
And so
100%.
I think a lot about. I've been thinking about that conversation a little bit, actually, because it's. I wrote a blog post a couple of years ago. I was working for a startup company out of Massachusetts who did the SuperSense app, and I wrote a blog post about how, as blind people, we have so many resources at our disposal for building a brand and coming up with employment opportunities that are really underutilized. And one of them is like our network. As blind people, or as a person in general, this is true for the mainstream as well. But there are so many talented people that everyone knows. Like, at least 3 people who are really good at stuff, like something that they are really good at. They have a skill,
Right.
and you can build off that. So, for example, I've, as a podcaster, I have met other podcasters. I also know Tony, and so Tony, who has a music career, and I, who have a music career, we can collaborate together, and I connect him with my network, vice versa. He brings me on this here podcast machine, and we talk. We benefit each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we've generated publicity for each other for free. Didn't cost me anything. Didn't cost you anything.
No.
But we have a network that benefits each other.
Absolutely.
And as a result, like, I know what Tony's like. He knows what I'm like. If one of us blows up and has a lot of success, you're one of the first people I know I could turn to and say, we need an opening act for this gig. I need a reliable guy who's going to come through and play some kick-ass music and talk to a crowd and know how to own it.
100%.
Tony Gebhardt's your guy. And so
Thank you.
You make those connections, use your network, man, and it will use you in a great way. You got to do that in a healthy way, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
Yeah. It's such a valuable commodity that we all have.
So Nate Kyle was the last guy on the show.
Nate Kyle.
One of the things that he talked about that I found really, really important was knowing who your mentors are. And ever since, so as many of you who do know or who do not know, I was in therapy very, very intensely about 4 years ago from mental health issues, and have since healed from a lot of that. But one of the things
Respect for that.
Thank you.
Of course.
One of the things that I took away from those sessions and hours of watching videos in the waiting room was
like your videos, or like videos that they had?
Videos that they had, because they would have these like motivation tapes or something like that they'd put on for people to calm them down.
Is this like random like YouTube videos of Slayer on your phone, or is this like
no
mental health? Like,
although I mean, I'm sure there was plenty of that, but like but there was this one video that came on, right, that really echoed through me. And it said, identify 5 key important people in your life. And the 5 were a mentor, a friend, a professor, a cheerleader, and a coach. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because
that is interesting.
Like, certain people can serve multiple roles, but at the same time, it gets you into that frame of mind to acknowledge and recognize that, hey, you're not doing this alone, and if you try to do it alone, you will fail epically. And I think that's the key frame that comes up as a common theme in these types of scenarios with networking, and especially as a minority, mind you. I think it's more important than ever that people like us who are in the blind community to embrace each other.
Absolutely.
instead of trying to fight for the pedestal, we need to embrace each other.
It's so true. The level of competition in the blindness community is crazy to me.
It's ridiculous.
If we, honestly, if we dropped so much of it, imagine all of the things if the blind community, really united behind each other and really supported the projects that each other was doing, it would be unbelievable. The way that we could lift people up. It would be incredible. And that's something that, that I really try to build. I want to shout out something that video said that I really like, which is the difference between a friend and a cheerleader. Because something that I see a lot now that kind of pisses me off a little bit is like, if your friend is not also your cheerleader, then they're a bad friend. And people are like, people want their friends to just like endorse everything that they do. And like, if you're making a bad choice, a good friend will support you in that. And then eventually tell you that they thought it was a good idea in retrospect and help you pick yourself back up. And I think that's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you have to learn stuff on your own. And I respect that. And
that's true.
Because that's how I learned a lot from doing that. And I can get into that story in a little bit, but like,
sure.
It's so valuable to recognize and to be the kind of friend who is like, who gives actual genuine advice, who is like really, if something seems like a bad idea, I'll be the first one to tell you, I feel like you probably don't want to do that.
Right.
Like,
right. Absolutely.
Like, friendship is about being real and looking out for each other, not just blindly supporting everything that someone
absolutely
wants to do or someone wants to say,
or
whatever their opinion is. So I love that it mentioned that there can be a difference between a friend and a cheerleader.
100%.
And it's both. They overlap, absolutely. But a friend is someone who is there to also tell you when you're about to screw it up.
And I think that's where, in a lot of ways, the mentor and friend can coexist in a lot of ways, right? But I think the problem that we see a lot of the time is people have egos, right? We all have an ego to a certain extent. And, back in my day, when I was 21, my ego was the worst. No.
15 years ago?
No.
Nope.
And you said I was 37, so 16. So
I'm sorry, 16 years ago.
No.
I was one off.
6. All I wanted to do was pursue a musical career, nothing else. I won't sell myself short. I thought what I thought at the time, and there's nothing I can do about it. So, I won't beat myself up for where I was, but I will say where I went wrong is I didn't take sound advice from people who were in my situation, who have been there, right? And wanted to acknowledge and say, look, pursuing a music career is one of the hardest things that you will ever do. And if you're not ready for it, you will become a drifter. And lo and behold, I did. I moved 7 or 8 different times every year because of it. And, I was miserable. I was definitely miserable. And looking back now...
Can you talk more about that?
Sure.
What
absolutely. So after I graduated high school, I went out to Alaska. And I lived there for about 2 months. And then I came back to Michigan because I was homesick. I was, 19 years old and just released Father Forgive Me. And... I wanted to tour with it. I wanted to start a new band and play the songs because I Among Giants had just split up. So I was still in the mindset to, watch something grow and do this, do that. So, what do you do when you look for a band, right? You go to Craigslist or go to, local shops and see if people are putting up ads and stuff like that. So, all of which that failed because the people that wanted to come in and play wanted to rewrite the music and do this and do that. And, I was called a control freak because of it. And, to a certain extent, I probably was. But at the same time, I still had a vision, right? So it's a perspective thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'll acknowledge both sides.
And there's a difference between a band, like there's two kinds of bands. There's like a band that's like writing and recording everything together, and then there's like a hired band, like hired guns, who you bring in to play something that's already been, that's already been manifested, that exists, and you need a touring band or a hired band for it.
Absolutely. And I think at the time that's where I was, but I did not have the greatest of managing experience. So, long story short, that ship sailed. So I decided, all right, fuck it, I'm going solo. Yeah. So
Tony G.
Yeah. Solo. And so I went back to Alaska again, and initially we went out to England first for my friend's wedding, so that was a lot of fun, and got to play some shows in the UK, which was sick. Just the coolest thing. Yeah, it was awesome. The people over there are beautiful and wonderful, and it just felt so spoiled rotten, and I try to find so many ways to give back to all the Airbnbs that we stayed at, because one of them that we stayed at was this mansion, right? It's like 11-bedroom mansion, and they have a dining hall where they feed everybody. I'm just like,
that's amazing.
What's going on here? And the lady Sharon, I think her name was, who was, she was like, "Oh, Tony, darling, you're always welcome to come back." And she kissed me on the cheek, did the European thing, and I was like, this is so cool.
I will, Sharon. I'll be back soon.
I'll be back, trust me. But nevertheless, I digress. I stayed in this mindset for a little while. I was doing drugs and kind of toying around with things like that. So, of course, my focus wasn't all the most rational. And released another record, and which was in 2018. There was Changes. And that's when things went downhill. When things really, really hit rock bottom. My parents divorced. Dad was going off to jail. Lots of nonsense. Family was breaking apart. Grandpa died, and the whole family was starting to crumble into pieces, which was hard to watch. I think that contributed to part of my downfall, was allowing a lot of that grief to get to the best of me. And I got involved with a relationship at the time that was toxic and just ridiculous, and
oh man,
I wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking. So then I started drinking, and spending all my money on this and that. Didn't pay rent where I was. I basically took to the streets a lot of the time, to do what I needed to do. And after a while, this got to the point where I, attempted to take my life. And, it was a hard time of my life. And 2019 was probably rock bottom for me. And that's when I knew I needed to change things. So, I did about 6 months of intensive therapy. And then it started to slow down there a few months after. And I decided, I'm like, okay, I love music. I'm always going to do music, but I need to find something else that's going to really, like, what's my passion, right? How do I give back? Because I felt like at the time...
You took a breath, you had to look inside.
Yeah. I had to look inside,
And what did you see, Tony?
A beautiful soul.
Damn right you did. That's exactly it.
I was like, is he doing it? Oh, he's doing it. Okay. It's funny. Man. That's really funny that you mentioned that, because that was actually around the time I wrote the song.
I know. I remember the story.
Yeah.
Tony and I the first time I really worked with Tony was July of 2021. I was putting on a benefit concert for the Super Sons app that I was talking about earlier, and we had Andy Timmons headlining it, and I was putting together some of my good friends, best musicians that I knew in my circle, and we had Jenny Rudolph in there, we had my beautiful wife Precious Perez, we had Question ATL, who I was talking about earlier, and we also had Tony Gebhardt right there before Andy.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And it was such a great set, and I remember you told that story and the crowd, it was a completely virtual show. 7 performers, none of them were even remotely close to each other.
No.
In the world, in the country, and the audience was really captivated by the story that you were telling and the show that you put on. That was a hell of a Thursday, man.
Oh, it really was. I remember, and thank you for that. That was very kind. I remember actually right where I was at the time, everything, and I was, I was nervous,
Yeah.
And
I was too.
Yeah, it was that was a really big deal. You had a lot of pressure on you, and it probably
somehow nothing went wrong.
No, not at all.
My obsessive planning,
weeks of planning and networking and communicating. I mean, you came out on top with that, and I couldn't be more proud of you just with that work.
Thank you, man.
It was fantastic. Yeah,
I tell that story in job interviews.
Really?
About that concert.
That's awesome.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
I would tell everyone, even if you did something and it seems like it's just a hobby thing, you can totally spin it for an interview. Because, that concert was ultimately part of my job. But it was, honestly, that show was something that I had wanted to do for a year in, because I was just, concerts are something I'm so passionate about. Music is my life. And so I was asked, my current job, which is a really, I'm so blessed to have the role that I have now, and I could talk more about it. But in the interview process, I was shocked, actually, because I ended up, there were 5 rounds of interviews, and the last one was with the CEO of the company. This is a this is a $500 million company, and the CEO was interviewing people at my level, and I was terrified. And he was like, what was a moment in your life when you were working, like describe a week of your professional life where you were just loving what you did? And I told the story of that concert, because there was so much. There was the marketing and the promo going on. There was the audio visual, the checks, the sound checks that we were doing. We were doing interviews. We were doing blog posts. We were releasing all of these advanced pieces to promote the artists, setting up, the tip jars, making sure everybody got paid. It was the most fun I ever had in that job.
Oh my gosh.
And you were a part of it, man.
Yeah.
You were a huge part of it.
I appreciate that. It was
absolutely.
It was one of the, I think, highlights of my year as well. Just being put in a position where the world felt connected.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like in a kind of scenario like that, where we have, over 1,000 people watching, everybody is connected from their living room, from their corner of the kitchen in America or across the pond. And for a moment, you forget about COVID. We forgot about everything that was adding, adulthood stress to the world. That's a gift.
Yes, it is.
A gift
Absolutely,
that you cherish.
Yeah, and I think about it too. The age has been a theme in this podcast for some stupid reason, but this is what we're doing in our 20s, man.
I know.
This is the start.
I know.
This
absolutely. This is the seed
of what we're going to be able to do.
Yeah. This is the planted
this is
seed. So, speaking of that, I feel like this is the podcast to make an announcement. I'm launching a company in the coming weeks, and I'm really excited to finally announce Fright Night Media.
Wow.
A multi-media
Tell me about Fright Night Media
company. Yeah, absolutely. So Fright Night, that's a gamer tag I've used
Read
for
my mind.
Yeah, I know. Look at that. That's a gamer tag I've been using for 12 years. And no, it's not Fright Night like the movie. Let me just clarify that so we don't get copyright issues.
Yes.
I believe that living life through a justified and rational what do you want to call it? Fear, right? when we live life in fear, we don't get anywhere. But we need to take life as though we are a knight, we're a soldier. We you know, and fear is just a part of it, because we can use fear to our advantage.
It's true.
It's true, right? So the whole point of Fright Night Media is to provide live stream games, original music, and content for those to motivate them and to spotlight individuals like Shane Lowe, to be able to bring people the perspective and empathy that they need so that they can live a more fulfilling life.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful mission. I heard a great quote from John Bon Jovi, the greatest living frontman, who he said, "We make decisions in life either out of love or out of fear," and that stuck with me for a decade of my life so far. And
living
I
on a
still
prayer,
think to this day,
That's right.
Yeah, when I struggle to make a decision, it's like, am I coming to this conclusion? Am I making this decision the thing that I think I should do? Do I think I should do it because I fear something, or because I love something or someone? And that drives how I make decisions. And so I love that. That's a component of what you're talking about here, Friday Night Media. So tell me about the model. How are we starting? How are we growing? What's next? What's coming?
I think what's going to happen right now is I've got a graphics designer who's going to be delivering some high resolution logos and some banners to get everything set up. I've already got the website bought, and I'm going to be doing a rebrand of some of my own social medias. Because for me, I'm gonna be honest, and this is my other way of giving back. My brand for many years has always been my name, right? And I don't know how I feel about that anymore. I'll tell you the truth.
Interesting.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm full of myself, but I don't think Tony Gebhard, that whole thing, right? I want it to be Fright Night Media by Tony Gebhard. So it's not me per se, but it's me with a name.
That's so interesting.
I want it to be more
I've
of an
never
umbrella.
heard of a musical concept like that before.
Yeah, and I mean, I think by music, I think music is just a branch of is in a lot of ways is a branch of the company, because Tony Gebhard, I mean that part's never going to change with the albums, with the podcasts, Tony Gebhard show and all that. But
TonyGebhard.bandcamp.com.
That's right. There you go. TonyGebhard.com, where you can get all the music, the podcast. Join the Discord community, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, Fright Night and Friends. That is now live, and we're at 40 people right now. So let's see that. I know. I'm so excited.
Respect for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so excited. People are getting together and just want to create a space where people can share their music and share their thoughts and philosophy and support each other. That's my way of giving back. That's how I want to.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love that you're doing this, because it's always a mission for me to surround myself with driven people who are creatives, who have empathy, who are always looking to build a community and give back to communities that they came from and the communities that built them. And so I love what you're doing. And I think that's an amazing way to give back. And I think you're doing amazing things.
Thank you.
And I believe that people who do amazing things should also be able to have a comfortable life and not live out of a box. So how is Fright Night Media making money? Where's the company part of it?
That part I'm developing.
Pay you for the great thing you're doing. Yes.
So that part I'm working on right now, and I'm going to be consulting a financial advisor about. Yeah. So I can't give a lot of answers right now because I don't know. But what I do know from the research that I have been doing is through advertisement campaigns and sponsorships. So providing organizations and agencies an opportunity to promote their content on mine. That's what I love to do that, because that's another way of giving back, right?
Absolutely.
I've also thought about going the Patreon route as well. I've seen the success of that. I do have a template built and hope to see that excel in the next 6 months. So a lot of things are based
That's
on
amazing,
risk.
man.
You know,
Yeah,
it's all
true.
based on risk. And, to be honest with you, the thing that I'm proud of is there's not much to lose with a digital company like this that doesn't have excessive overhead except for,
Right.
maybe subscriptions for storage, for website hosting, for, advertisement and things of that nature. That's maybe a few $100s a year.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
and in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot.
Yeah,
Grand
and you're
scheme.
following a very similar life model as the one that I am, which is, we have a primary job. We've got our 9 to 5, which
Yes.
keeps food on the table. It keeps us funded. And
Yes.
and I think I speak for you as well when we say that we are not only fortunate to have things that we're really passionate about that we're doing every day, but also the work that we do as the 9 to 5 to fund our lives is also something that we're really passionate about. We're so fortunate that I hear so many struggling musicians who are like, man, I hate my job. I'm just working this shit job. It's miserable. I can't wait to leave and do music full time. And I'm so lucky to love what I do.
Amen.
That makes me money,
brother.
and love what I do that I'm building from the ground up.
And that's like,
amazing.
it doesn't happen often, right? So we
we're so lucky in that.
and I think that there's another thing, right? Practice gratitude.
Absolutely.
We
Yeah.
grateful to have that. In my job, I'm a teacher, right? I teach technology and work with youth, and I put together programs with a team, to provide them employment opportunities, mentoring, and writing resumes and things like that. And truth is, Fright Night Media, to me, is do I expect to make an excessive amount of money off of it? Absolutely not. I don't. It's
I hope
not.
you do, though.
I mean, hey, I hope so too. It would be pretty groovy.
Of course.
But same. It's kind of like with you and Venom. It's a passion. It's a way to fill my time, to be able to give back to other people who need a goofy, obnoxious person to listen to for an hour or something like that.
Yeah, everyone needs that.
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
much fun.
And
Yeah, man.
and-
I love that we're both in education as well.
yeah,
I
that's
work
really
for-
cool. I love that. And
I work
how's
for a
Precious
company
doing,
that-
by the way? I know she got a music teaching job not too long ago.
Oh yeah, so she's a preschool teacher. She's now doing Spanish and music enrichment classes at a preschool here, and she's also, really pushing in the music career. I can't talk about too much right now. We'll be at the Grammys in a couple weeks for RAMP, Recording Artists and Music Professionals with Disabilities. So really stoked to be in LA with her, promoting Ramped and promoting the music that we make together and everything that she works on.
Congratulations, by the
so
way, on
much more
that.
coming
My
soon.
God.
Thank you, man.
That is just
Thank
so
you, man.
cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
That's
it's
something to be
I-
proud of.
I am. I'm so blessed to have. I don't even have the words to describe how incredible. Precious is my best friend. We work together and we create together, and we lift each other up in so many ways. And I think it's just, there's nothing like that, man. I'm so grateful for it. We're in a band together, for Christ's sake. I haven't even got to talk about the bands yet.
I know.
So lately, these days, I'm in 2 bands right now. One is called Midair Decision. You can find us on all social media: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We are Midair Decision everywhere. We'll have some music coming for you soon. Describe ourselves as trap fusion, so we're a 6-piece band. We've got a rapper, we've got multiple vocalists, bass, drums, percussion, keyboards, guitar, just such a full, diverse sound. So we incorporate those elements of the band sound with modern trap music. And then also just actually started a band called the Blues Pilots. And we're so new. We don't have socials yet. We don't have any of those things. We met doing a gig a couple months ago, and we're going to be an instrumental quartet, playing jazz fusion, blues, and so more coming about the Blues Pilot soon.
I love it.
Look out for both of those, man. Very, very excited and very honored to be working with such amazing musicians. I mean, Midair Decision was something that started very intentionally. That, Precious and Question, ATL, and I came together, and we wanted to pick high quality, incredible caliber musicians to start a long-term, successful project with. We've got such big ambitions for Midair Decision, and we're actually getting together in 2 weeks for a writing and recording session, put some music together, which I'm so excited about. Blues Pilots was an accident. It happened because Precious actually she put a band together of Berkeley musicians for a charity show in October, and the four of us loved playing together so much that after the gig was over, we broke off and did some jamming and formed the Blues Pilots.
Man,
just be open to those opportunities, because they're, oh my gosh,
be a yes man.
It just blows me away.
Be a yes man, as they say. Take the opportunities. Well, we've been talking for over an hour already.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's
literally.
amazing.
We've been talking for over an hour.
Thank you for the time.
I know. Thank you for the
energy,
time.
Man.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I knew this would happen.
I just ended up interviewing you, I feel like.
I know. That was really funny. Well, you know what?
We'll flip the script.
Yeah, exactly.
You should be the guest on your own podcast in a few months.
I don't know about that.
You.
Listen, really quick before we get out of here today, one of the things I always ask guests at the end of the show is really, coming from a person with a disability, right? Because that's one of the themes on this show is, talking about perseverance and advocacy, accessibility, and themes alike that seem to, flow like a current in our group. What piece of advice would you throw somebody who's in that moment of stagnation, right? Who's stuck and doesn't know what their passion is right now? What would you throw at them? Other than a tomato. Don't do that.
I love tomato. I wouldn't waste a good tomato.
I know, especially a cherry tomato. Chop that thing up and put it in the salad.
Delicious.
I know.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm thinking about this because I've been so fortunate, and in some ways, I guess, unfortunate, because I don't know how to sit still and relax.
Same. Very much. Yeah.
I think for me, if you're in a space where you would say that you're stagnating, or that you're not achieving what you want, or you don't even really know what you want, I think what I would do is go back to the basics and say, who are the people that I admire and why? Who do I think I want to be like them when I grow up? And why? What do they do that makes you feel that way? And start building that day by day. We're in 2023 right now, and I think some people, it's been going around this idea that like nothing is original, and I think I don't know how I feel about that necessarily, but I think nothing comes without inspiration. And so if you're building in someone's footsteps, you're not copying them. You're not a ripoff or a leech. As if your intentions are to be inspired by someone who has made a contribution, even if you don't even know them, if there's someone who you look at and you're like, this person has made an impact and done an amazing thing, and in my life, I want to do a quarter of that. Study. Studying isn't academic journals. Studying is listen to interviews, study what you like, what you're passionate about, what you care about. I've spent a decade as an amateur audio engineer, and I've actually gotten gigs from it because it was something that I cared about so much that I did it for free. When I was in middle school, I just started just screwing around in Goldwave and figured out how to put concerts together, how to build live audio from the ground up, how to make compilations, just because it was something that I thought was cool and interesting, and I wanted to build the coolest concert that I ever heard. And I wanted to take all the coolest moments. So even if you have just a hobby that seems so dumb, that takes hundreds or thousands of hours of your time, like mine, like, I've gotten paid for that work now, just because it's knowledge that I have. And so when you build that up, don't be afraid to jump in out of your depth a little bit and say, I've been screwing around in Goldwave for a few years, and somebody's looking for someone to mix a song, or looking for someone. I can do that. I've been audio engineering for 5 years.
There you go.
Jump in. And you will learn so much. And you might screw up, and you might mess it up, but that's how I learned. By messing up projects, I knew where I could jump in and where I couldn't. Because, there are some times when you can't. If they need it tomorrow, and you don't know the process, but you think you might know it, but they need it tomorrow, this may not be the one.
Right.
But if you've got a week of turnaround, jump in and learn it. Mm-hmm. And you'll try harder than anyone else because you want to do well. But everyone's got to, you got to find that niche, and you've got to be able to fuel it as well.
It's like getting out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely getting out of the comfort zone, but also knowing how to, if a dream means enough, if a dream is important enough, I think it's very important to understand that, to a certain extent, stagnation is a matter of willpower. And so if there's something in your way, if it's money that's in your way, for example, because money was in my way for a long time, I had to work. Something I didn't get into very much, and I would love to talk about this in the future because it's a huge part of my story.
Yeah, it'd be great to have you on the show again. I think that's definitely a part 2. Definitely.
Absolutely, man. My son was born when I was 16. It was totally not expected. And for Kaysen, I had to work. I had to get a job and make money so that I could help contribute to give him the life that he deserved. And that really took away from the time that I could read and game and fuck around with my friends. But making those sacrifices for the dream, as long as you're doing it in a way that's reasonable, it keeps you humble, and it keeps you passionate and thriving. And I'd be happy to have this conversation with anyone, because I know we're over time. But always look for, nothing is dumb. No idea that you have is ridiculous or stupid. If you can build that thing, there will be a demand for it at some time in your life, and you'll find it.
So does that mean that I can dance and sing to Poker Face naked on the roof?
I hope so.
Okay, good.
I hope that's what that means.
Me too. Thank you. There will be a demand for it.
At some point in your life, there will be a demand for it.
Absolutely.
There will be a demand for it. It might be from Venom. We might be seeking
okay,
that.
There you go. An All-Stars. That'll be an All-Stars appearance right there.
All-Star Jam. Tony Gebhardt naked on the roof.
I know. There you go. Well, Shane Lowe from Venom.fm. This has just been an amazing conversation. I expect nothing less. And if you guys are interested in subscribing to the podcast and you haven't yet, TonyGebhardt.com/podcast. And leave a review, please. Internet points. For whatever reason, it just happens that way. And, of course, Venom.fm. Check out the station, the podcast, everything that Shane is doing. So many different things going.
We are Mid-Air Decision everywhere.
Mid-Air Decision. Yes, the new music. Thank you, Shane. This is the Tony Gebhardt Show. GreatNonprofits.org is a 501c3 nonprofit. Great Nonprofits helps people focus on making good giving decisions. based on socially sourced feedback and reviews. Go to www.greatnonprofits.org and type in your zip code or city to find a charity or nonprofit near you that you can help.